Hello, and welcome to the ProjectWise Administrator Advanced Accreditation course on the iModel Composition Server for PDF. In this lesson, you will be defining a source file presentation setting for use in the iModel Composition Server. Defining source file presentation settings will allow users to apply their plotting standards to selected files at plot time when using the iModel Composition Server, and provide convenience to administrators when creating plotting standards. During this lesson, you will learn how to define source file presentation settings. What is a presentation setting? A presentation setting specifies which InterPlot settings file or files will be used, if any, to create your renditions. And as we know, InterPlot settings files can define such things as plot area, size, scale, rotation, pin tables, design scripts, and so on. For each source file presentation setting component you create, you will define an InterPlot settings file that is mapped to all data types, and whether or not an alternate InterPlot settings file will be mapped to your DWG files. In this exercise, you will define a source file presentation setting. Once we've logged into our data source, let's use the greater than symbol next to renditions and expand that particular component. We'll keep driving down into the renditions profile components, and we will see the first component available, source file presentation settings. Let's right click on that particular component and choose new presentation. Before we begin, let's get familiar with the concept of a source file presentation setting. The idea is pretty simple. This will be where we have the opportunity to map and make a connection between the source file presentation setting and the actual InterPlot settings file that we've created in earlier videos. If you look closely, you can also use an additional settings file if you're plotting DWG files. We understand that sometimes an InterPlot settings file may have to contain a unique pin table that will handle the weights and the colors slightly differently than, say, for a DGN file. So we give you the flexibility to assign up to 2 InterPlot settings file per source file presentation setting. However, the caveat is the secondary option will not be used or invoked if you're not plotting DWGs in conjunction with DGNs. If you're just plotting DWGs by themselves, you'll only need to place that settings file for DWGs here in the primary settings file location. One other thing to note is that we give you the ability to use symbol technology. What exactly is symbol technology? Well, let's say, for example, we navigate to an existing settings file that you may have created. But in this situation, we will not use the actual name of the existing set file. We'll use a symbol instead. If I click the Add Symbol button, it gives me the flexibility to choose any of the document properties here. So I could use the name of a file, I could use the name of the state, I could use folder properties to use as the name of the settings file. I can use any work area information such as the project name, project number, client name. I can use the environment attributes, any particular attribute that I may have available in my data source. And we also give some general user properties as well. But what's the purpose behind a symbol? The idea is quite simply, if I wanted to, I could use the client name or some variation of that client name, say for example, the owner, and then I use that as the name of my settings files. This would then allow the system to dynamically select the correct InterPlot settings file based off the source file presentation symbol technology. So, for our exercise, let's navigate to the existing black and white 11 by 17 set file that we made in a previous lesson. If we select Browse, System Admin, Plotting, Settings Files, we can easily highlight the black and white 11 by 17 set file and click OK. Once a settings file is in place, once again, as a reminder, this would be our opportunity to assign an additional set file if we were plotting DWGs at the same time as DGNs. But since we're not, we'll leave it unchecked for now. Let's name our settings file based off of the name of the actual InterPlot setting. That would give us black and white 11 by 17. Click OK. Now, what if we need to create additional source file presentation settings? We can easily highlight the existing source file presentation setting, right-click on it and choose Copy, and then Paste. And we will rename this particular settings file for the secondary InterPlot settings file that you've already created. That was black and white, D size, sheet. Then simply double-click the source file presentation setting or right-click and choose Properties. And we can browse and change the actual set file. That gives us the ability to navigate to System Admin, Plotting, Settings Files, and select the other InterPlot settings file, our black and white D-size sheet. And let's click OK. This concludes the lesson on defining source file presentation settings. Let's review what we've learned. During this lesson, you've learned how to define a source file presentation setting. The next video will provide techniques on how to define output file formats when printing with the iModel composition server. Thank you.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.